Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. We have the iPad 11-inch, the Pro version with the M2 processor in it. Also has 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage in mine because, well, I was way too impatient. And the last time, they said, oh, it'll only be about, 3 weeks. It turned into like 2 months. And it's like, I need it now. I'm really sure that a 128 will more than do me because I've never had an issue before. So, hey, let's try this again. So I did get the Apple Pencil for it. By the way, very handy. Highly recommend if you're getting any iPad that supports any of the Apple Pencils, get the Pencil. But especially on this one too, because you not only have a very high precision pencil, but it also has the hover feature as well, and it is extremely accurate. Great for doodling, artistic stuff, whatever it is you're doing. Even launching simple apps and maybe manipulating stuff within certain apps. This is going to be a real lifesaver, okay? So definitely recommend getting that. Now, of course, in Canadian dollars, this does cost a bit because these iPads alone sell for over $1,100 new. For the 128 version, and the Pencil, by the time you get the taxes in on that, you're looking at about $200. So it's kind of like, well, hey, it's the way it is. It's technology. But there are definitely negative things over the last 7 months I have definitely found with this thing. One of which everybody found, and that is the Type-C port is fine for charging, but they say it's a Thunderbolt port, right? Well, if that's true, it's not in this universe because that is not going to get you Thunderbolt speeds. I have Thunderbolt drives I've built that literally can hit 3,000 plus megabytes per second. I get a third of that out of this puppy. So yeah, I agree with everybody that this is technically not Thunderbolt speeds we're experiencing. So, and that can be easily verified by downloading a program called Disk Test. And in order to test the internal, that's fine. It's freaking fast, like no problem. But to test externals, you're gonna have to pay for the program. But it's actually worth every penny, trust me. And then there's another one called Disk Bench that I tried out. Of course, you gotta buy that too. A little bit cheaper, but it's also cheesier and it doesn't do half as much as the Disk Test version does. And you can find those on the Apple App Store. So it's kind of nice we actually have some kind of a benchmarking utility now that can give us benchmarks, and then we can go against real world and kind of compare. And with the same kind of results, we find out that this is not really what you would call a Thunderbolt port realistically. So definitely some downer there. The cameras, of course, are really fantastic, front or rear, though the front camera is only 1080p. It does offer you an ability to increase width as well as depth perception. And it's like, wow, that's nice. Now I can fit some stuff in my frickin' screen. It's awesome, right? Rear camera is 4K or lower, your choice. And that's also great, right? So the cameras are fantastic. It would have been nice, however, if Apple would have put 4K on the front. I mean, come on, they do front and rear on our iPhones that are 4K. What's the problem with doing the same thing here? It's not like they can't do it, you know what I mean? Anyways, so I use this iPad in ways in which obviously many of you are going to buy an iPad Pro because you want to have the more professional experience. You want the higher horsepower that's offered in a Pro iPad as compared to the lower end ones, which I've always had to put up with until I finally bit the bullet and said, screw this, I've had enough. They have a thing called, people call it Apple's built-in obsolescence. So every time you get an iOS update, it slows down your computer, right? Or in this case, iPad. And that's very true. The 7th gen actually didn't even do me 2 years, and it got so damn slow on boot up, never mind trying to launch a program, it was just driving me nuts. And I'm like, I can't tolerate this. What's the newest toys we have? Well, we got the 8, we got the 9, we got a 10. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going Pro. I mean, how much more a month is it going to really cost me anyways to go with a Pro machine? Not very much. Worth every penny. And besides, I can't afford, like a lot of people, to buy my phones in cash or my iPads in cash. So I go through my cell phone provider, get into a 2-year contract. Can be a little on the pricey side, especially for the plan they make you take. But at least you get affordable monthly payments on your phone and your iPad. And you can get whatever the heck you want. So, well, within reason, obviously, because it's whatever they're carrying. Now, I could have got the 256, but I didn't want to wait. And I figured I've always been fine with this sort of thing before the 128. I've never even used more than 32 gigs. And I'm at the same process here once again. I'm only using up about 32 gigs of space for everything. So now I've got a bunch of cheesy games on here because that's what I do. Entertainment is my drawing programs. I've got my finance area. I've got utilities for my electronic stuff that I can't remember everything, obviously. And of course, like I said, my testing stuff. I got Facebook, I got Messenger on here, my FaceTime, all the usual stuff that's already preloaded from the factory as well. And a few other little extra apps. I got DaVinci on here, DaVinci Resolve. One of the things said about these M2 machines is they are way too fast for their own good, and there is no software to take advantage of them. Well, DaVinci can kind of assist you a little bit, but it doesn't really impede performance very much. I've done my own video editing with it, though I don't like the multitude of extra steps to get files in, out, and back onto my drives. That's a bit of a pain in the butt. But you can do DaVinci Resolve now, right? And you can do Final Cut, and you can do Logic. Now, I have watched videos with people trying to use Logic and Final Cut, and I'm like, I knew. It's not going to happen. Now, I totally detest GarageBand on iOS as it is, and I've always detested it. So it's like, this really isn't that much easier. In fact, it's as difficult, right? And I'm like, no, I'm going to stick with Logic on my Mac. It's better. It's easier to manipulate, easier with plugins, less hassles all the way around. And that's how I deal with it. Now, for some of you, you might find that for you, your little brain pan says, hey, this is really super simple and easy because I can learn it really fast. You know what? I can learn this stuff just as fast as anybody else. I just choose to not have to take an hour to do something that I can get done in literally 5 minutes on my Mac. So that's why I don't use a lot of stuff on this thing that, yeah, I can use it. It is more portable. It's not like I can haul around a 4K monitor under my arm and my mini on the other. And, you know, this makes everything in one little nice little spot, which is kind of really nice and convenient. But it comes at a cost. More time wasted getting your frickin' project done, and that I'm not willing to do. So that's where I am not in the mood for that sort of thing. However, what I do use this thing for, which is spectacular, is my little drawing and doodling programs and my little cheesy arcade games when I want to do that. But my primary focus is mainly 2 apps on here. One is the camera app. I shoot a dirt load of videos on this thing for my channel with the front camera and the rear camera, and the videos can take me several hours at a time. I actually had this one perfect, and I was talking on the phone, got distracted, forgot to save it in 4K and compress it in 4K, so we're back here again, doing it again since 6 a.m. and it's now 10 a.m. So yeah, I don't use scripts or teleprompters because I don't have the room for any of that garbage, and besides, I don't have the time to write that stuff out, and I like to keep it real, right? Like, you know what I mean? So, and I got enough distractions in life. The main thing, other than video, that I shoot on this is OnSong. Now, this program, if you've used it, you'll know that on an older iPad, even a 7th gen, is slow. Watch this. Bingo. Poof. Up. Switching keys. Bingo. Up. On an older iPad, like a 7th gen, even an 8th gen by now is definitely getting slow because of iOS updates that keep slugging the suckers down. You are not slowing this puppy down anytime soon, okay? I'm going to have this until it just dies one day, probably. Or I replace it with whatever is out at the time. So I figure I'm going to do at least one battery change, And when the next battery caps it out, then I'll replace it with something else, because I think by then we should be sitting somewhere around maybe M5, M6 chips in these things. Right now we're at M2, and we're about to get M3s. So that's a few more years down the road. So, and I still may not even replace it. I mean, if nothing's slowing it down, and as long as Apple still supports this thing, which even if they don't, I'm using it as a camera and I'm using it for OnSong. The only thing I need the internet for is the App Store to download programs that'll still run on that OS. And it'll still take several years after this thing is literally considered obsolete by Apple before they're going to have like absolutely no apps available for it anymore in the App Store. So that's a lot of years, right? I'll probably be 90, right? So, but as far as these programs, they're not demanding on the iPad. Like OnSong is not demanding, but it sure seems like it is when you're on an older iPad. So it's kind of like, yeah, well, you know, hey, half one dozen the other. Not very much of a border on this thing for the edging. It's really good. You get a lot of real estate there. They do also have the 12.9-inch model as well. But I think these are great. And the battery runtime, I've gone like literally 10 hours of shooting video in here pretty much nonstop, and my battery still didn't drop below 34%. So that's really good for battery usage for all that too. My health status on this is 96% after 7 months. But keep in mind, this thing spends more time in use than it does on the charger, and I torture the hell out of it to do what I need to do with video cutting as well as for my OnSong program, which there's 7 hours in a week that I need this for between worship practice and church, okay, to do my OnSong stuff for the church thing. So it works, and it does a fantastic job. And even in just 4 hours, of even doing just OnSong straight up, I barely even drop a couple of percent. So, this thing does have an almost 8,000 milliamp battery in it. So that's 8 amps of juice. Okay, mind you, it doesn't need it. But, still 96% health 7 months later. I'm actually quite impressed. And it's doing a wonderful job. I have no issues with it other than, yes, the Thunderbolt port is not really Thunderbolt speed. And of course, it would have been nice for Apple to put dual 4K on here, but even still, the 1080p, most of my videos are 1080p anyways. This is 4K because this is also my very first video I'm cutting on my iPhone 15 that I just got the other day. So let me know what you guys think of the picture because it's unedited, okay? As well as the audio. Let me know what you think of that too. No special lighting in my room either, so hey, there you go. Anyhow, and I am still enjoying the iPhone 15 so far, and we will have a review coming soon for that, but not immediately. I have a lot more to learn about this thing, and it's like, oh my goodness. Anyway, so all in all, if you want a powerful machine, even into this caliber, and, whether you go 128, 256, or 512, you're at 8 gigs of RAM. If you go 1 or 2 terabyte models, you're going to get 16 gigs of RAM. But with each tier level upgrade, so does the price go. But at least as far as the storage goes in this thing, way cheaper doing more storage on this than it is on a friggin' Mac. That's for darn sure. Like, way cheaper. Okay, so worth going to the upgrades, obviously. Next time around, I'm probably going to just buy a 256 or a 512, whatever I happen to need at that time, based on application size, iOS sizes, and so on, right? But for now, the 128, I'm more than sure is going to do me for the next several years. No big deal. So, anyhow, 4.5 out of 5, man. 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Go get yourself one. And forget those low-end iPads. If you want the longevity, this is where you need to be. Not with 8 gen, 7 gen, 9 gen, even a 10 gen. This thing is better. This is like top dog, right? Currently, it's about to get replaced by M3, but even still, the M2 is still going to be good for years to come, okay? Besides, the only thing M3 is going to do other than more horsepower that we don't know what to do with, it's going to have likely ray tracing, the same we have in the M3 chips now in the computers. So, But anyway, that's what I got for you. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next one.